The world of HR is constantly evolving, and let's be honest, so should you. That's why here at Factorial we're bringing you a weekly dose of HR tips and best practices, but in easily chewable tablets. We're here to give you human remedies for human problems. So without further ado, it's time to take your weekly HR pill. Okay, so we've been talking about the dangers that lurk in offices. We're gonna put that to sleep for a moment, and now that we have some ideas on how to keep a workplace safe, it's time to start dabbling into HR as a whole. Before we explore the basics of HR management, which we'll be referring to as HRM, let's define it. HRM comprises the formal systems designed to manage people in an organization. To better understand HRM, we will look at a brief history, understand the roles of HRM, and go over when it is time to bring HR into the mix. So let's do this. So one of the main issues with today's HR professionals is that they don't understand where everything comes from and how the role became what it is today. What is now called HRM has evolved a great deal since its beginnings around the 1900s. Personnel departments, which emerged as a defined field by the 1920s in a lot of parts of the world, was largely concerned with technical functions. What began as a primarily clerical operation in large companies concerned with payroll and employee records began to face changes with the social legislations of the 1960s. HRM developed in response to the increasing competitive business organizations experienced by the late 1970s as a result of deregulation and rapid technological change. In the 1990s, globalization and competition required human resource departments to become more concerned with cost and planning and the implications of various HR strategies for both the organizations and their employees. If an organization wants to have a formal HR department, which they should, there are typically three different roles that group might play into the organization. The strategic role links human resource staff with organizational mission and the work of people in the organization. The operational role manages functional human resource activities and serves as an employee champion. And then finally, the administrative role provides record keeping, process administration, and compliance efforts, and all of that. The priority of these roles has changed a lot during the years. These functions are a collection of specialized HRM work. For each functional area, human resource professionals are responsible for key activities that help the organization go forward. Now, this begs the question, when is it time to bring HR into the recipe? So last week we spoke with Contravo's People and Culture Manager. By the way, if you haven't watched it yet, it should be around here. So yes, we specifically talked about when is it the correct time to bring an HR person into the pot. Bottom line, better sooner than later. We spoke about the well-known general rule of one position in human resources for every 100 employees, which is not bad, but it tends to be for larger companies with a human resources department with sufficient resources. On one side, there are equations that sustain all of this. Let's talk about calculating HR to employee ratio. The HR to employee ratio is calculated by dividing the number of HR full-time equivalents by the total number of employees in the organization and multiplying the outcome by 100. If you have multiple part-time employees, translate those positions into full-time equivalents for the most accurate results. Company executives can use the HR to employee ratio to know if their company has grown to the point that more HR staff are needed to effectively manage the employees. Being able to calculate the ratio properly helps business owners make important staffing decisions. On the other hand, there's a lot of variations of this, but they don't differ a lot from each other. For example, the Society for Human Resource Management's 2007 Human Capital Benchmarking Study shows that companies with up to 250 employees, demand is significantly higher, as the study Workforce Analytics shows an average of 3.4 human resources employees per 100 full-time positions in the company. Obviously, the ideal ratio varies by organizational needs. While roughly 2 HR staffers per 100 employees may be the norm, it may fall short if the organization is undergoing growth and hiring new staff, or is undertaking a significant initiative such as new training programs or new cloud technologies or something like that. Employers generally report higher staffing when they're smaller. For larger employers, economies of scale and automation softwares help maintain a lower HR to employee ratio. Being able to calculate the ratio and compare it to other organizations of similar size is useful for business owners in evaluating whether the HR department may be under or overstaffed. Access the link on the description, and there I go over the calculations in a more in-depth manner for small and large employers. That way you can sit down and actually calculate if your company is healthy in terms of HR staff. HRM is so important. You have absolutely no idea. Well, you do now, but I'll repeat it. It plays a strategic role in managing people in the workplace culture and environment. If effective, it can contribute greatly to the overall company direction and the accomplishments of its goals and objectives. When you establish systems for performance development, career succession planning, and employee growth, this keeps people motivated, happy, personally engaged, and contributing to the company's success. Even more, the HR professional helps the development of organizational culture and climate in which employees have the competency, concern, and commitment to serve customers well. Subscribe to our channel and stay up to date with the latest pills to help keep your company as healthy as possible. Share your thoughts with us in the comments, and thanks for tuning in to HR Pills. See you next week.